St. Lucia, this is Open Mic, and we are back to the fourth and final segment of our program. We have two major issues to touch upon, and one has to do with the lack of proper stenographers at the court, and also the kind of person who is head of Bordelais in the name of Mr. Hilary Herman. Steve, since you discussed the matter at length on with Andy George, who unfortunately is not here today with us, concerning this stuff, I personally was appalled when I heard the comments being made that we didn't have a qualified stenographer at our court. I cannot believe that we're in the 21st century and a qualified stenographer is not at hand, because, you know, regardless of how much technology there is today, when a man goes to court, or two people go to court, and they give evidence, it is upon this evidence that they are brought in guilty or not guilty.
Correct.
And that is extremely important, because you're talking of people's lives.
Correct.
Assuming a person has to go to Bordelais based on the fact that they were found guilty, when in fact they should not have been guilty. So there are two problems here. You have wronged the person, and you're incarcerating them in an area that's going to turn them into another kind of criminal.
Correct.
I just wanted to...
Yeah, the issue that Mr. George was talking about was the timeliness of getting the transcripts from the court proceedings. And that you are quite right, stenographers are people that are trained, and they're in the court, and they can, as you speak, they can
fill in.
Just write it up so that you end up having a transcript
in other
quickly.
words, it's in black and white.
That's correct, which is important.
Yeah.
The other way, of course, is you can also have technology where you speak, and there's voice recognition software which converts your speech into text, which is the other system. And this is what Andy was talking about. These two strategies are important to have in court, and not in both in the magistrates' court as well as in the high court. The only court that has stenographers, from my understanding, is the Court of Appeal. Okay, but we need it in the other courts as well, and it is time to invest in that, because you are right. What happens now? When we speak in court, we give evidence in court. There's a tape. It goes over to the court reporting unit, and then somebody types it from that tape onto into a document to create a document. That is a slow process, because you could appreciate there are lots of tapes, and few people to type, so you can understand the backlog, and that's not acceptable. So I think that has to be changed. So that was Andy's main point. It's a good point, because that delays the entire process of getting to the point of justice. The second point you mentioned, I think, is really the directorship or leadership and management of Bordelais, and how important it is for us to make sure that we have the right people in the positions to lead that institution in the manner which it should be, which is a correctional facility as compared to what it is right now. Mr. Herman, Mr. Hilary Herman, who's the present director, is somebody that, well, I know and I've worked with for many years. And I've had long conversations with him. I understand his philosophy, and I know that he is of the mindset to convert the Bordelais into a proper correctional facility. He does have the interests of the inmates at heart. And I think when we put people in position, to me, it's you look into their heart. Do you have the heart? Yes, you need the skills, the technical skills. But more importantly, Dr. Granderson Didier told me this many years ago when we were hiring a doctor for the sexually transmitted infections disease program. She said, Stephen, we ask questions to unveil the heart of the person. How much do you care about what you do? In an institution like Bordelais, you must have people that care. Yes, they are fair and they can understand responsibility and holding people accountable and responsible, but they must also care. Mr. Herman cares. From my experience with him, I think he's done a good job given the resources and support that he has been able to receive. Yeah.
You know, I want to thank you for this contribution. But I want to just go to one other point, which is your field again, which I just learned by accident only yesterday, and that is our hospitals. I was in the south of the island a couple of days ago, and I always like to go at St. Jude's and monitor what is going on. Because I enjoy watching building, construction work, plus the fact I'm very concerned over what has happened at the St. Jude's Hospital in the George Odlum Stadium versus a proper facility. And to my amazement and shock, I learned that it is not going to be another year before the St. Jude's can actually be finished again. Now, Steve, this is 5 or 6 years since the fire. Yeah. This is unbelievable what is going on. Can you just, do you happen to know anything more? What's going on?
Well, you've said it. What you've said is what I know. And I think it speaks to a number of things. It speaks to how do we plan in this country? How do we implement plans in the country? And I think the St. Jude construction is an example of that. Clearly, we needed to give the people in the South a proper facility as quickly as possible. And we have not been able to do that.
Yeah.
So clearly our plan was deficient. You can see that, that's obvious. And the other thing is, even when my other concern now is always what next? Where are we now? And what will happen? When we do open the facility, do we have the resources, the financial resources, to make sure that it's going to operate in the manner in which it should, so we give the people of the South the kind of hospital care that they truly deserve? And that is my concern. I raised it in the Senate when I was talking last meeting, and I think we need to develop a proper plan now, which allows us to not only fast track the opening of that facility, the new St. Jude Hospital, but also allows us to put the right thing in place to make sure that the hospital is properly resourced, properly financed in a sustainable manner, and does not negatively impact on other government programs. I think that is so important, and I am not privy to that plan, but it would be nice to whoever is making that plan, it would be nice for them to come in the public one day and share with us what is the plan for the new St. Jude Hospital. What is it going to be doing? How are we going to be financing it? What are the strategies we're going to be using? I mentioned one in the Senate, which was to a medical school complex and lease the facility to a medical school and have an agreement for service with them, so our people get essentially under a UHC program what I would call free access to paid for services via an appropriate financed agreement. That is what I would like to see, personally. The leader of government business responded to me by pointing out that there are a number of plans that government has with regards to the St. Jude Hospital and how it will be financed in the future. But I don't have the details of those plans. It will be very good for us in the general public, and of course in the Senate too, at some point in time, to hear what those plans are. Because it is, as you know, we run businesses,
yes.
Michael, you know, you have to plan sensibly, you have to be strategic. Money doesn't just fall from heaven like manna.
Correct.
Money has to be worked and earned. And it must be used properly.
Yeah.
Money is not evil. Money is just a tool that we must know how to use it.
Yes. You know, see, I also heard through the grapevine, true or false, that the Tapia Hospital will soon be getting some form of accreditation. Did you hear that at all?
Well, Tapia Hospital does have international accreditation. It's one of the few facilities in this region that has that accreditation. Accreditation.
How long has it had?
Tapia Hospital has been accredited now for 4 years.
4 years.
Via the international arm of Accreditation Canada, which is the body that accredits hospitals in Canada.
Question for you. With that accreditation, if we built a school, say, and with the necessary facilities, Would that be of help to Tapion right now, or it's
It sure would, because Tapion Hospital, like all hospitals, suffers with fiscal crunches. Tapion Hospital does, contrary to public opinion, Tapion Hospital runs in the red.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult institution to finance properly, like all hospitals are. They're expensive
Yes.
to operate. And if you can have other streams of revenue, such as through education, which is what I was proposing in the Senate for St. Jude,
Yeah.
the same strategy would work for Tapion Hospital.
Yes.
You must
So
look for alternative.
it can work now.
It can work,
Yeah.
and international accreditation does help us. So Tapion Hospital does have the opportunity to develop new streams of revenue, and as a business, it should do that.
Okay, because that's an area that I'm particularly keen on, because I think for St. Lucia, if we can do a facility where we can attract at least 2,000 students, the economic stimulus for the housing for people is, I mean, when you just have to go up north with a few little universities there. People are building apartments purely for that, you know. Yeah.
And that university town concept, if we could put back to the north and
Yeah.
the south, we took for south a minute, Vieux-Fort.
Yeah.
If we could put 1,500, 2,000 students in Vieux-Fort, do you know what that would do for Vieux-Fort?
I know. Yeah. Look, St. Lucia, this has been a very interesting program, but in the essence of time, we have to come to a close. And at this point, I'm just going to ask Dr. King and Mr. Dosri for some short words so we can wrap up. Mr. Dosri, you've heard what has gone on. Just quickly, what have you learned and what can you advise?
Well, I think there's a whole spectrum of things that needs to be done. There's a lot of work ahead for whichever government is in power right now. We have to rethink, recreate, and proper governance must be, you know, we need good governance and accountability, and we must shift our focus not only, you know, on one sector of the economy, but we should also shift our focus on the development in a more serious way of our people, you know, our human resource, you know. So we should focus, the government needs to focus a lot more on developing the human resource within the country.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Steve?
You know how I want to end? I want to end like we did Hot Button Issue, because it is coming home to me so strongly. The last verse of our national anthem that Father just wrote. May the good Lord bless our island, guard her sons from war and harm. May our people live united, strong in soul and strong in arm. Justice, truth and charity, our ideal forever be.
I think these are wonderful words. I want to thank Steve and Mr. Dosri for your presence here today. I think you all have made a wonderful contribution to St. Lucia, and on that score, I want to say thank you, and until next Sunday at the same time, this is Open Mic saying goodbye. Thank you.